Hi, Italia Autos here. Welcome back to another video on my channel. In this episode, I'm going to finally be working on this green Gtv V6 that I've had in my workshop for the last 2 years. So please stick with me and I'll let you know what's going to be happening to it. So the story with this is, I bought it about 2 years ago. I bought it off a garage and it had been sitting in their forecourt for 8-9 years. The original fault on it was an immobiliser issue. It wouldn't turn off, which is very common on these GTVs. They had several auto electricians out to it to have a look at it. Fortunately, they couldn't fix it, so the car just got laid up for so long. Guy then had to get rid of it because he was leaving his job there, so the vehicle had to be moved on. So that's where it came into my possession. Got it back to the unit, couldn't resist it, had to start messing with it straight away. Fixed the immobiliser problem within 5-10 minutes. It was just a sticky relay, which is what I thought it was when I was buying it. So that was all sorted. Before I'd even attempt to start it, I decided to change the cam belt. And this is where we ran into a little bit of a problem with it. So this is why I've never really touched it much over the last 2 years, because it's going to take quite a bit of time to get this running again. So let's have a look under the bonnet. Now I have already started stripping it down to do the cam belt. I have also started stripping a lot more down because the fault with it, can any of you see it? Yes, if you look at the front bank, can you see something a little bit weird? For those that got it right, yes, you can see straight through the head into one of the water jackets. There's a massive hole there, and it's also looks as though it's cracked along there as well. So yeah, unfortunately, this beautiful low mileage engine has been wrecked purely for the fact that I do believe it was in storage with just water in the cooling system. So when we had a few bad winters, the water inside was frozen and expanded and cracked the head. From what I can tell, the rear head is fine because it's sort of further back in the engine. It's more protected from the elements. But the front bank, unfortunately, it's taken the brunt of the frost damage. So a lot of people probably wouldn't have seen this sort of damage before. But this is what happens when you don't have the correct amount of coolant in your vehicle and you leave your car standing for a while. So I had started stripping it down, ready to take the head off it. We're almost ready to pull the head off, but I sort of gave up because I ran out of time. I've been ever so busy this last 2 years, believe it or not, and I just didn't have time to start working on it. So what's happening now? As of a couple of months ago, I decided I didn't have the time to complete it, so I thought, right, let's get it sold. Advertised it on Facebook and sold it without any issues at all, as I say, because it's a genuine 48,000 mile car. The inside, although dirty and a little bit grubby, is in very good condition. It just needs putting back together where the auto electrician has been messing with it for so long. So what's happening now? The vehicle has been sold to what is now one of my customers. I didn't have time to do it as it had been sitting here for 2 years, and I thought, I'm not going to break it. I'm not going to sell it to anybody that is just going to break it up themselves, because I think this is one that's definitely worth saving because it's a V6, because it's low mileage. Yes, it's going to require lots of TLC and bodywork, mechanics and everything to get it pristine again. But I think this one will be one of the cars which goes up in value in a few years' time. So it's definitely worth spending some money on this one. I will try and show you a little bit of the interior. Yes, it's all a little bit grubby and cobwebby, but it's all present, accounted for. It's also got the original phase 1 stereo. The screen has unfortunately gone. I don't know if it works or not, but it is in pristine condition as well. There's very little to no wear on the buttons at all. The driver's seat bolster, if you can see that, although a little bit mouldy and could do with a little bit of recolouring, it is in fairly good shape. My original plans for it were to rebuild this engine because it's a low mileage engine. I was just going to get another head, swap all the valves over, get it all refurbished, stick it all back together. I would probably take the rear head off as well, just to inspect that for damage and get it pressure tested. And then just rebuild this one and make it look like new. But customer's decision, this is all coming out, it's not being used. What the customer has given me is another Gtv V6, which is in quite a bad shape. Unfortunately, I do believe he hit a tree, a rather large tree looking at the damage. The front end is absolutely twisted. The side of the car, let me walk around and show you, is also quite damaged. All the frame is bent. There's also a fair bit of damage underneath as well. So I think he almost might have gone airborne above the tree. I'll have to ask him how he ended up going into a tree. But yeah, everything on this car is going onto that car running gear wise. So engine, rear subframe, because it's all been polybushed, all the suspension's been changed over, the exhaust. There's been lots of modifications on this engine. And another problem we have with it is because the chassis has been pushed in. If you can see that damage there, we are at least going to need to put a cam belt on it, and I'm going to need to make sure there's been no damage to the engine. He does assure me that the engine wasn't running when it was taken off. He has already partially stripped it, that's not me, but he has been a good boy and covered the intakes for me, so there shouldn't be any dust and debris in there. So first of all, I'm going to be getting everything off this car and then getting rid of the scrap shell, because I'm running out of room in my workshop at the moment. I do need to create some more space. Bodywork wise on this one, it's not too bad. It has just picked up some battle scars because it was sitting in a garage forecourt for so long. There's been quite a few door dinks and other dents around the vehicle, and a few scratches and a few naughty chavvy elements that need taking off. A few light scrapes around it. I think that's probably just a bit of dust, to be honest. Rear light bars in perfect fine working order. This side seems to have taken the most damage. You've got a dent here where it looks like the aerial's been pushed in. There's a little dent there. There's a scratch along the quarter, starting to have some lacquer peel. We've got, I don't know how that's happened there, but a big massive gouge in it. And a few dents along the front door. Now, my 2 years of ownership of this, I don't remember actually having a look at the underside of it, so let's have a little look now and see what the condition's like. Front subframe isn't too bad, to be honest. A little bit of corrosion at the end there, but nothing that wouldn't be refurbished. Again, it's just flaking of the original coating of paint. I think the worst hit part is the chassis stiffener, but again, it's only surface rust. Onto the passenger side floor pan. Normally you get a lot of rust here, and there's very little there at all. The sills are free from jacking damage on this side. There is a little bit of damage there, but that's nothing to worry about. And now let's have a look at the driver's side. Again, very good condition. A little bit of rust starting to come through there, but again, that is very minimum indeed for a car of this age. Rear suspension. Spring pans still seem fairly solid, other than it being covered in loads and loads of dirt. It seems as though this could have been salvaged with a good hour of pressure washing. Now all the tyres, as I would expect, are going to be absolutely knackered. Look at all the cracking in that sidewall. And you will now see, look at that for damage. Believe it or not, this tyre is still holding air. So have a look at the other ones. Again, yeah, major cracking in the sidewall. do think it had 2 new tyres put on it, or 2 used tyres put on it when I picked it up because they were flat. But yeah, those rear tyres are still holding air. Also, after 8 years, well 10 years effectively now, the alternator hasn't seized. So there we go, this is the next major project I'm going to be doing on the channel. What do you guys think about it? This one is definitely beyond repair, but what do you think of the green one over there? Would you have saved it? Would you kill it? I know a lot of you, when I did a video on the silver GTV, the £100 one, a lot of you wanted me to save that one, but one of the reasons I didn't save it was because I knew I'd got this big job to do, and I will more than likely want to nick some bits of trim and stuff off it. So if you do want any parts off that silver GTV, let me know and I'll gladly sort those out for you. So the next step I'm going to be doing is stripping this one down first. Engine, exhaust, rear subframe, suspension, everything off this one. Get rid of the shell, and then I think we shall start by doing the rear subframe. Hi guys, yeah, this car was fairly straightforward to take apart. There was no major issues in doing so. It's had a lot of modifications to it, so a lot of them hadn't been on the car for very long. So I didn't suffer with any seized or snapped bolts on this one. Starting by taking the exhaust off, removing the handbrake cables and ABS and brake cables now, so I can drop that subframe straight down in one complete go. It's going to make it a lot easier in the long run, refitting it to the donor car. They're equal length downpipes. Again, very easy to take off. That's all the exhaust off the car now. Now on to removing the drive shafts and the hubs from the car, so I can drop the complete subframe down. Again, a lot easier to remove it all in one go than it is to put it all off separately. It saves a lot of time. It's a lot easier to take it all apart when the car's on the floor as well, especially when it comes to removing hubs and wishbones and things like that. So when I refit it, I will remove the hubs and the suspension separately and then fit them together so they're on the car. I can then bleed all the brake system up and then put the subframe back on once the engine's been removed, refitted. These are 2 of the most annoying bolts on the whole of the GTV. That one I'm undoing now is a pain because you can't get a ratchet in there, so you're in there with a spanner. And as it's a 24mm, I haven't got a ratchet spanner, so it does take forever to get these bolts out. Removing the transmission tunnel now, so I can drop it down and then remove the front subframe. Front subframes are dead easy to remove, so it's a lot easier to take any engine out at the bottom with this style subframe because it's literally 10 minutes work and you can have a subframe off. And there we go, get my forklift there to drop the subframe onto it. Just removing the top suspension bolts now. And the strut brace. We're nearly ready for this subframe to drop down. Just knock those drive shafts out. This one was a bit stubborn, to be honest. It didn't want to come out that easy, so it did take quite a while to knock that out. And I need to raise it up a bit so the drive shaft's nice and straight to pull that out, and it does eventually come out nice and easily. A few more loose bolts to remove. drive shaft on the other side, and I think we're pretty much good to go now. It was nice that the customer had already removed quite a lot of the engine bay, so all I needed to remove was a few water connections, a few engine mounts and a few wires, and down it came. This didn't take long to do at all. When all your air box is in and all your air conditioning stuff, the bolts to remove the 3 which hold the engine mount on are really difficult to get to, so I always just undo the 17 or 19mm nut which just connects the mount to the engine brace, or gearbox brace should I say. And I think we are nearly ready to drop the engine. Just a few more connections and down that will come. So there you go. I'll leave you to watch the rest of the video in peace and find out what we find at the end of the video. Right, everything's now removed. Engine, suspension, exhaust, rear subframe, everything's gone. Didn't really run into many problems. I did forget to remove the positive cable as I was pulling the engine down, but I managed to catch it before it caused any damage. So that's all done. What I am going to do is remove the power steering, and I'm also going to remove the brake master cylinder, just in case the one on a donor car is seized, as it hasn't been used in so long. So just taking a few precautions. So let's have a look at this chassis now and see how bent it is. To all the Alfa haters out there, this car's held up pretty well over the years. For a 22-year-old car, the only part on the floor is twigs, bits of tree and dirt. The chassis has held up pretty well. We do have a hole forming here, which is not bad for a 22-year-old car. And the only major issue from the accident is there. Can you see that? Considering that that's the side that wasn't impacted too hard from what I can tell, and it's properly kinked, that chassis leg. So definitely game over for this one. There was no way I'd be prepared to put this one back on the road. It's also kinked all there as well, if you can see that through the sunlight. So let's have a look at the engine I've removed now. We can see bits of debris all around the engine. Nothing major, nothing that I could see could cause many problems other than debris down there, but that can all get cleaned out. We do have a build-up of water inside the engine mount, and it's got quite rather rusty. Lots of dirt around the belt area, and also on this pulley that has been turning with the engine going because it's all been flattened to the pulley. So the engine was definitely turning when it hit the tree. So we do need to triple check that the engine's okay. And one other reason I've seen the engine was turning is the belt at the top here. You can see where the belt has come away, and there's also gouge marks in the belt. So I will be very worried about the engine timing on this car. Hopefully it's just made the belt rub and not made it skip a tooth, because it can damage valves quite easily with just one tooth being out. So I am a little bit concerned at the minute, but we shall have a look when we strip it down ready to do the cam belt. I have now fully removed the engine. I've removed the radiator and the radiator fan just to give me a little more access to get the engine back in. I have changed over the steering rack, and I've also changed over the brake fluid master cylinder. So we are almost go for the engine to go back in. Some of you guys are probably wondering about the condition of the engine bay. No issues there at all. There's a couple of light rust spots, but nothing major at all. Let's get the car in the air now. I have fully rust protected and undersealed the underside of the car. Had a word with the customer, and as it's in such good condition, we might as well rub it down and get everything repaired. I've also fitted the donor car's rear subframe. I've literally just put the 4 bolts back in. I'm yet to move all the brake pipes into position and wire everything up. When removing rear subframes, they're really quite easy. It's just 2 brake pipes, 2 ABS connections, and 4 bolts holding the subframe in. But when doing the subframe, that bolt is a proper pain in the backside, because if you can see, this arm always gets in the way of that bolt, so it takes for ages to undo it with a little ratchet spanner, just winding it down. So if that bolt is stuck tight and you can't get enough purchase on it, you may need to just remove this rear arm just to enable you to get to that bolt a little bit better. Now, when I refitted it, as the car's this way round, I couldn't get the forklift in, so I placed the subframe on 2 spare tyres, so it was up in the air, lowered the ramp down onto it, and then bolted it into place. Now onto the engine. I've got a brand new cam belt kit in here, a genuine one. I've also bought a water pump, but since I bought it, the customer has said that one has only been fitted for literally 2,000 miles, less than that. So we're not going to be changing the water pump on this one, but we are going to be changing all the tensioners and everything, just because they're all really rusty, and I wouldn't want to reuse them after this accident anyway. So guys, not very far into the cam belt change, and it is very bad news, unfortunately. I have prized the cam cover back so I can rotate the engine by hand. I am running into resistance when I'm turning the engine, so that's prompted me to get top dead centre, pop the cam locks on and see the position they are in. The red lobes are where they should be, and the cams are way out, literally on all 4 of the lobes are way out of position. What I've also found is the bottom of the hydraulic lifters are not reaching the bottom of the pulley. They are staying still. They will go down, but they won't come back up again. So that is telling me that we have valve damage and the valves can't close properly. So I need to give the customer the bad news now and see what next step we're going to take. Right, let's start with the head. As you can see, the cylinders aren't too bad until you look at the middle one, and you can visibly see that there's water been sitting in that cylinder, and the head gasket's also been rusting. So that's definitely not going to be going in another car, mainly because of the big hole on the other side of the engine. Now let's have a look at the engine. You can see from the head gasket that blew out. So I'm 99% sure that it was just frost damage. You've also got sort of a compression in the head gasket there, and you can see another hole in the head gasket. Let's pull this off. Trying to do it one-handed is not going to be easy. There we go, and inside the engine it isn't much better. Can you see all that furred up rust? And it's even more down there. So the whole engine, if I do decide to repair it, is going to need rebuilding, just purely for the fact of all that rust in the block. So I imagine that's going to probably spread into the sump as well. One thing I haven't done is drain the oil out of it. Let's see how much oil is in there. It still looks fairly clean, to be honest, and quite good. Sorry about the focusing there, look. Do you reckon there's water in that or not? I'd probably say not. Does it still smell oily? Oh yeah, it still smells of oil. It also smells of petrol. So, yep, that's not good. Yeah, so I wouldn't put this engine back together by just rebuilding that front head just because of the amount of stuff which is in it. So I will probably get this rebuilt and then sell it on, because there's always demand for a refurbished V6 engine, especially the phase 1s as they're getting rare. Hi guys, Italia Autos here. Welcome back to another episode on the Gtv V6. Been beavering away in the background. The new engine has arrived and I've been busy working away. Engine is now all plumbed in. I was being a bit of a div when I was wiring up the vacuum pipes. I'd left one on the vehicle from when removing the other engine, and I'd left the one on the engine, putting it back in the car, so I had an extra pipe. Never put the 2 and 2 together, so I spent about half an hour searching for the right place to put it. So in the end, that vacuum hose shouldn't be there, and the one from the front of the car just goes under the throttle body, up to the back there, and we should have everything plugged in now. I have bled the clutch, I have put some oil in it, I've put some power steering fluid in it. Now I'm going to put some coolant in it, just to make sure we've got no leaks anywhere. Then I need to go to the fuel tank, get rid of the old fuel in there, if there is any in there. Hopefully there isn't much in there. Probably swap the fuel pump over as well, or at least test that, make sure that's working. And then a few final checks, try and plug it into the engine ECU, see if we've got any fault codes there. And fingers crossed, we might have a little bit of life in it. Yeah, be careful when you're working around these fuel pumps. because this metal along here, it can be very sharp. I've managed to slice my finger open. But it smells terrible. Right, just push the screen. As you can see, the rubber inside the fuel pump has just totally corroded away. So good job, I wasn't going to test that pump and I was just going to chuck another one in it. Right, let's go and clean my hands because I've got all decomposing rubber all over my hands. Right, let's just show you in the fuel tank. I don't know how much you can see of that, but it is all dirty brown fuel. It smells a little bit like adhesive rather than petrol now. So let's suck all that fuel out and see what condition the tank's in underneath all that crap. Yep, doesn't smell very nice at all. Now sucked it dry, got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 litres out of it. Right, going to put the fuel pump in now, giving the tank a good clean out. I'm going to do this with 2 hands and I haven't got a mount in the car, so you will just jump cut to one fitted fuel pump. That went in quite easy for a change. So all fitted now. I fitted a brand new seal to it. The pump is the used pump out the donor car. It's a good job we had that because I don't have any others in stock, and these old pumps, I bet you probably can't get them now. So let's get some fuel in it. Okay, we have got the code light going off. That was the original fault which I fixed a couple of years ago. We've got a little bit of fuel in there. I've put about 20 quid in, so that should be enough to get us started. Let me just put the camera in the back so you can hear the fuel pump prime. Don't know whether you can hear that, but yeah, I can hear it. So now we need to crank the engine a little bit without it starting, so let's disconnect a couple of sensors. Right, after many weeks of hard grafting on this car, we are nearly ready to start it. I've disconnected the main engine harness. I am still waiting on a new exhaust gasket, so if by any chance it does start, you will hear the exhaust blowing. I am a little bit concerned about the fuel rail. As you can see, there's a bit of a bend in it. That was from the accident. I am going to try and utilise that one, but if it does leak, I'll have to put a slightly less polished one back on. So let's give it a crank, get the oil circulating around the engine, check for any leaks, and then reconnect the engine harness, and let's try and start it. It all sounded okay when cranking, so let's connect this back up again. So now when I crank it again, I'm going to wait for it to catch. If it does catch, turn it off, make sure there's no fuel leaking from anywhere, and then hopefully we can start it properly. So at least it starts. Nothing leaking as of yet. No water on the floor, so let's go for a full start and let's hear it run properly. Oh yes! smoke's going to be from unburnt oil and stuff which has got over the engine. Once that all heats up, it will burn away. Leave me to do my final checks on this, and we shall come back hopefully with 4 wheels on it. Right, I've also been rooting through the history, and it was last serviced in 2002. We had a nice expensive bill. That was the 22,000 mile service, and we have got, let's carry this one out here. Which one's this one? 48,000 mile service, loads of other work done to it. It's had a new seat frame fitted and a service and everything to it. And would you believe the bill back in 2002? So yes, it's a full historied car there. Even though it's had a different engine now, it doesn't matter, but it's a good little thing, hopefully. And we've got all the stickers and codes and cards, so if it ever needs another key, we've got all the information there. Right, well, let's just make sure we've got gears and brakes. We've got a few warning lights to sort out, airbag warning light being one of them, and the engine warning light. So let's try gears. First, second, third, fourth, fifth is not the easiest. Reverse, we've got clutch. Brakes need bleeding again. We'll do those now, and then we'll get the wheels on it, try and find out what fault codes we've got, and get on our way. So there we go, guys, all done. I've thrown a sponge over it just to get rid of some of the dust, but the bodywork is still in need of some serious attention. Mechanically, the car is all done now. It does just need probably a few little bits fettling. I am going to bleed the brakes once more because they're still a little bit spongy. But mechanically, it is pretty much all done. So thanks a lot for watching and sticking with this one. Again, if you've got this far through the series and you've not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that like button as well for me. So thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.